Appalachia ain't got nothing on Sichuan, China. What is going on with Sichuan, China? So today's story is right up my alley, or should I say right up my valley. So there's color video footage of a tall, slouched, and strange-looking 30-year-old man who is apparently the product of a Yeren, or wild man, and a woman, the one who told the story. If only the hybrid could talk. So Chinese researchers filmed and conducted an interview with the woman, and she was adopted by one of these Yeren, and after a while she escaped back to her village and bore offspring, a hybrid, a halfling. This hybrid has very limited speech, if any, communicating through grunts. That and the fact that he has a low sloping forehead and a protruding jaw makes some speculate that he may be suffering from microcephaly, a genetic disorder severely affecting brain functions and cognitive ability. The only thing is, microcephaly means small head. Although at first it means small head, and they also suffer extreme cognitive impairment, including motor skills and a short lifespan. Traits our hybrid doesn't have. So although at first the hybrid moves deliberately, swinging his arms in the primal fashion, moving deliberately and gracefully. Although at first the hybrid seems to have a relatively small head, he doesn't. This man is very tall, with a small neck, making his head seem smaller than it is. In fact, if you take into account his protruding mandible and maxilla, along with the general robustness of his lower half of his face, his head could be quite large. It's just his body is so big, he's tall. Especially for Sichuan, China. The men are like 5'5" there, right? My mom's from Sichuan. She's like 5 foot, right? But I'm 6'4", right? Maybe I'm a hybrid. I have this problem. People say I have a small head, but I'm 6'4", and now I work out, making my stature dwarf my head. I also have a protruding jaw. I have a sloping forehead. This is all just hair. I have a sloping forehead. It starts here. My forehead starts here and angles up. And then I have that occipital bone as well that he has. So yeah, I have a protruding jaw, sloping forehead, long arms. My wingspan is 6'4", and upper torso, and the long upper torso relative to my lower torso. So despite having long legs, because I'm tall, I actually have a longer torso, just like this hybrid man. And I also have a protruding occipital bone, just like him. These are very common in archaic hominids. And the gorilla, that's an example of an ape that has a very large occipital bone, sloping forehead, right? In fact, a lot of humans have this gorilla DNA. I believe if you're B positive, you have this gorilla DNA, which I'm B positive. Genetics is weird. We have the rhesus monkey gene. We have, I believe, bonobo. They're very human-like. They're communicating. I don't know if we have bonobo, but I believe we have chimpanzee genetics, and then we have gorilla genetics, right? Now, from my previous videos, you may know I have a 99 percentile Neanderthal DNA, according to 23andMe. So I have a higher Neanderthal DNA count than 99% of the people that have taken 23andMe. with something around 5% unknown DNA and a very archaic haploid group on my mom's side. My mom is from Sichuan, China. It's beautiful there. I lived there as a kid. You may be wondering why I'm bringing up my Neanderthal genetics. Well, every Asian has Neanderthal DNA, not just the Chinese. Although East Asians have the highest percentage or percentage of Neanderthal DNA, surpassing Caucasians. The thing is, Neanderthals were capable of speech. They're very capable of speech and language. Maybe their social skills weren't as developed as ours, prefrontal cortex, whatever. But they were capable of speech. They had language. Living in small groups, they lived in small groups. These Neanderthals, mostly related. There's a lot of inbreeding going on, just like all archaic humans, right? But humans formed larger groups. Homo sapiens, they formed larger groups versus Neanderthals. Probably how we killed them off. And these Neanderthals, they buried their dead. That's just to show how similar we are, really. So despite having physical differences cognitively, I don't think Neanderthals, despite having physical differences cognitively, I don't think Neanderthals were quite different from us. He doesn't really look Denisovan to me, despite that region, Sichuan in southern China, being known for its fossil evidence and the fact of the Denisovan and the fact that these guys dwarfed Homo sapiens. So these Denisovans, on average, had a taller height than Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, right? Despite Neanderthals having massive bodies, these Denisovans were more than 2 meters tall. There's some 2 meters tall. Massive heads, massive skulls. The story of the hybrid man is told by his mother, who says, the Yeren abducted her and she escaped. She bore this Yeren hybrid after she escaped. Because of his nature, the boy was bullied and lived in a sheltered life in the Sichuan village with his mother. By the time this video of the interview was taken, he was 30 years old. So, he lived a long life. And he looked healthy. Just like the Appalachia, Sichuan is known for temperate forests and mountains. Temperate cloudy forests. Beautiful, beautiful. This makes travel difficult. With the winding roads up and down mountain valleys, not just straight roads, right? You gotta take the path of least resistance. These mountain roads can be treacherous. Up and down mountains, and many areas are simply they contain no infrastructure. Very hard to get to. Such an environment can create pockets of isolated people, right? Genetically bottlenecking the population. However, like I said, our guy does not seem to suffer from chromosomal disorders. He's a perfect hybrid. Strong and agile. The Appalachia has the largest amount of Bigfoot sightings in America, perhaps due to mountains and isolation of humans. China is so well known for the same thing, to the point where we have different names for it in different dialects and languages, right? China has over 50 ethnic groups, cultures, dialects, right? Sometimes we can't even understand each other. But we're both Chinese. So we have different dialects and languages for this type of thing, perhaps, right? Such as the Yeti, the abominable snowman, and the almas. I believe that's the Tibetan word for it. The Chinese tell of these cryptids since the beginning, since a long time ago, telling of people living alongside hairy giants in villages and many modern sightings of them. So there's accounts of in ancient China people living with these things. Right? China has many strange hominids, right? I'm not sure if you guys watch Ancient Aliens, right? They feature, and well, this is not just from Ancient Aliens. This is real, right? There's a group of people in China where they're super small. And they're very good at math, like very good at math, very smart. But they're like the original ones were 4 foot tall, but eventually, the genetics got watered down with Chinese genetics, and they became taller. I know Chinese people made them taller, but they were very good at math. And their story says that they came from they crash landed there. Like thousands of years ago, they crash landed in China. So could the Yeren of China just be the Han Chinese word for Bigfoot, meaning wild man? Like the Yeti? Hair samples taken from Buddhist monasteries in Tibet was compared to hair taken from the North American Bigfoot, and the results were an exact match. I mentioned that in my previous videos. However, our Yeren hybrid does not seem to have any, if at all, any body hair. So is Yeren the same thing as the Yeti? Perhaps in different regions they develop differently, as the word Yeti is used in the cold snow-capped Himalayas, an environment that could accelerate hair growth and large stature, right? Ice Age mammals, megafauna, were huge. A larger body, you have less surface area relatively, and you can withstand the cold. You can also starve for longer. Living in subtropical, temperate, humid forest mountains of China, perhaps the father of our hybrid, this Yeren, did not have as much hair as his Western counterparts. Some researchers say that the Yeren, a full Yeren, has some hair on his face. Some hair. So maybe his face was not fully haired, like Western accounts of Bigfoot. Or maybe there is more than one species of hominid cryptid living in China. Just like in North America, if you know about Hammerson Peters, he's a great YouTuber. I highly recommend him. His name is Hammerson Peters. He tells about accounts of early settlers in Canada, North America, but mostly about Canada, and accounts of natives. And oftentimes the natives would tell the settlers, oh, don't go there. Would tell the gold prospectors, the voyagers, the fur trappers, don't go into that region. There's a Sasquatch, there's wild men. Not just one type of hominid cryptids, many different types, especially in the Nahanni River Valley, the Nahanni National Park. There's accounts of all sorts of cryptid hominids coming into villages of the natives and harassing them, eating the men, abducting the women. Not just one type, some big, some smaller. So these stories of women being abducted from villages by these cryptids, and having her escape later bearing a hybrid, is common all around the world. And they're very similar in every way, many of which the women die shortly after giving birth. That's how traumatic it is. Or go crazy from all the trauma. They just go crazy, right? They've been abducted, and in order to sire an offspring, we can only assume what type of activities went on. Once again, this is fascinating, and I am left with only more questions. Thanks for watching, guys.